although not exactly the best film I've ever seen, Read It and Weep, as far as Disney Channel films go, it was actually pretty entertaining. Maybe I'm slightly biased because I'm a writer. I was writing extensively when I was the age of the protagonist, so I feel a kind of affinity with it. So that's an aspect that I really enjoyed. In terms of the execution of the narrative, I think the messages were pretty clear. This was released in 2006 and directed by Paul Cohen and written by Patrick J. Clifton, Beth Ragazio and Julia de Villers. And the description from IMDb is as follows. A shy and retiring high school student develops a peculiar alter ego that changes her life forever. That explains nothing, so I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but I'm not going to give any spoilers. Basically, our protagonist, Jamie Bartlett, played by Kay Panabaker, writes a journal. She calls it a journal. It's not actually a journal because none of the events in it actually happen. She is literally just writing a short story. Or maybe a novel that, gets extended. But it's not a journal, so that kind of irritated me a lot about this. But that's probably the biggest issue I have with this. So that's a pretty good thing, all things considered. And she accidentally submits the wrong file for a writing competition at school. She submits this so-called journal instead of what she was going to submit. And suddenly, she finds that everybody loves this journal, this story. It's about a character called Iz, who basically has this superpower at high school to overcome any challenges that is faced at high school, primarily but not exclusively zapping away the mean girls, the cheerleaders, the plastics. Because obviously Jamie is certainly not in that clique, or in any, not really in any clique. She's got a small circle of friends though, but then as she becomes more famous, as people start to read her novel more and more, and she goes on these, chat shows in this little tour of, I don't know if it's a tour of just her state or all of America, it was not explained fully. She becomes more and more famous. That begins to hinder on her friendship groups and, I guess, the real life that a teenager should be living. So, it's got the glitz and the glamour, and I have to say that's not what it's like being an author. Even the most top of their game authors do not experience that kind of life. Authors just don't get treated like that. But it's very interesting to watch, and as a writer, it is, it's quite inspiring. I was watching it thinking, yeah, if I just write a little bit better and spend a little bit more time each day writing, maybe that will be me. But quite frankly, as I said, that's not how it works. It's also very unrealistic. First of all, the story wasn't that good. It really isn't very good at all. At least what we read. What we are allowed to see as a viewer. But having fully grown adults drooling over this book is just... it wouldn't have happened. But for the target audience, I guess that wouldn't be something they'd pick up on, so that would be alright. That's not the biggest issue, I'm not that bothered, but you just need to be prepared to know that this is largely unrealistic in pretty much every sense of the word. Where the film did really well, I thought, was the acting. Kay Panabaker is absolutely brilliant. I also really hope that I'm pronouncing her surname correctly. And her alter ego is actually played by Danielle Panabaker. I'm assuming a sister. Yes, she is the older sister of Kay Panabaker according to IMDb. And I kind of liked that we did occasionally get to see Iz as a kind of angel devil on her shoulder. She kind of played both roles, and it was a really nice way of showing the pros and cons of being successful, I guess. And if you kind of rise to fame, you will leave a lot of people behind. And, it's just saying not everything is coming up roses, regardless of how successful you are. So it's got a pretty good message. I kind of like the message that it would give to younger viewers. I think it's very inspiring. Certainly if I'd watched this, when did this come out? 2006? I would have been 14. If I'd watched it then, I think it would have been really motivating and really encouraging, and I probably would have thought it was a realistic representation of what it's like to be a successful writer. And it would have made me want to write more and be more creative, and that's always going to be a great thing. Really liked the costumes in this. The editing was very good. Lighting, very good. I have a bit of an obsession with film lighting because I think bad lighting can just completely ruin an otherwise fantastic narrative. Not the case here at all, thankfully. It's good. It ticks all of the boxes for a Disney film. It's not too cheesy. It's not too cliche. And I think what I particularly like about it is it's definitely teetering on contemporary, because it was in 2006, technology is becoming more and more apparent. Now in a Disney film, you would never have a character without a high-tech phone and a top-of-the-range laptop. But, in 2006, we were still testing the grounds with that, and I think they did it very well. It's a decent film. I enjoyed watching it. I wouldn't watch it again, but if I had a child of this age, which I don't, I would be happy for them to watch it. I think Read It and Weep, not perfect, but still pretty interesting.